This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. I am joined today by Peter Wilkins, who is joining us all the way from Newfoundland, from the Newfoundland Distillery Company. How are you today, sir?
I'm great, thank you very much.
That's a really thick Newfie accent you have there.
It is, and it's very authentic. I'm a proper Bayman, but I have been here 25 years, and unfortunately, I haven't been able to pick up the accent.
So what brought you over to that side of Canada?
I met my wife in a bar in Prague in the Czech Republic about 30 years ago, and we lived there, had children in London, and then she had to come home. And I said, great idea.
Right. Now, in doing some research, I had heard of you before, of course, and you're viewed as being quite the polymath. But what was it that inspired you to start a distillery in Newfoundland? Because it was the first craft distillery in Newfoundland and Labrador, right?
That's right. Yeah, an old friend, Bill, who was a sort of big chef in Ottawa for 20 years, came back and one day said, do you want to set up a distillery and make whiskey? I said, that's a great idea, but that takes a long time. Can you make gin? And he went, yeah, that's easy. Yeah. So he went off and made some gin, and it was really good. And then I was going back to the UK for the sort of summer holiday to see lots of friends. And I thought that'd be good research because they're good gin drinkers there. Everybody loved it. So when I came back, I said to Bill, yeah, should we just see what we have to do to set up a distillery? And then suddenly, much to our amazement, within about a month, we had a license to legally distill in the province. And everything just fell into place. And it wasn't a great master plan. We were just incredibly lucky. And yeah, within, I think, 4 months of meeting, we were sort of, the first vodka was coming off the still.
So that was 2016 when you founded the distillery. And so you went through the gin phase, the vodka phase. How long does it take to get to that whiskey phase?
Well, we are going to release our whiskey later this week, actually. So it's taken us almost 7 years to release the whiskey because we got very distracted making the gins and the vodkas and aquavits and rum because we had to keep everything going and some money coming in. So it's taken a while to get to making that whiskey, but, it's here, almost.
Exciting. Now, today we are going to be speaking about this little beauty here. This is the Gunpowder and Rose Rum, labeled as a spiced rum. For those people wondering, no, we cannot grow sugarcane or molasses in Canada with any great success. So this is actually made from imported aged Jamaican rum. You know a fair bit about the history of rum in Canada, do you not?
A little bit. I don't want to go too far in case you're a real expert.
No.
Yeah, well, I think you are. But in Newfoundland, it's a very seafaring sort of province, and we thought that everybody, rum is the major drink of the province. I think for 1 of every 2 bottles of liquor sold in the province is rum.
Yeah, I was quite surprised to read that. Yes.
Yeah. So it's a massive product here. So we had to try and, get our hands on some and make some as quickly as we could. And obviously, as you stated, sugarcane doesn't really grow here. And, we looked at a variety of ways of how we could put a little bit of the province in the bottle with rum in it as well. So this, Gunpowder and Rose Rum was our cunning plan to get something into the bottle.
Now, when you talk about local products, you're talking about locally sourced botanicals that go into this particular one. And there's quite a fascinating story behind the Gunpowder and Rose Rum. I'm never sure if it's marketing from the rum angle or if it's actually this wonderful romantic story, but perhaps you'd like to extrapolate on that.
Well, I think you've put it very nicely, and I'll follow the wonderful romantic storyline because, we were thinking, how can we make a rum that's interesting in the province, put a little bit of the province in the bottle, yes, along with the rum from Jamaica. And, rum was part of a sailor's daily ration. So we always, and rum was always served at proof. And the history of that's because there are quite a lot of wretched officers that would drink all the rum and then water it down and pass it off to the sailors, who would then get really annoyed and say, this isn't good enough. That's part of our daily ration. we'll mutiny if we don't get our proper amount of our proper tot of rum. So to keep everybody happy at ration time, they'd put a bit of gunpowder on top of the rum, and then they'd light it. And if it sort of lit and fizzled and smoked, all the sailors knew it was at proof. And this was about 57% proof.
Yes, yeah.
So they'd be happy, they have their tot of rum and be delighted. So when Bill and I were trying to think of an interesting rum that would be from the province, have a bit of character, we thought one of the natural flavors would be, had to be gunpowder. So we'd originally thought we could put real gunpowder ingredients in, but we had a chat with Health Canada, and they, in their infinite wisdom, said, no, we can't use those, even though we could buy the ingredients in the health food stores. So we looked at alternatives, and we bought the real ingredients. We mocked it up and made the rum concoction with real gunpowder in there. Wow. And then Bill, being the sort of wizard that he is, he decided that, kelp, which is a natural source of sulfur, and a seaweed that grows here would be a good source for the sulfur. For the saltpeter, we used Newfoundland sea salt, which is made in Bonavista. And then for the carbon, we used a bit of charred birch, just to get that smoky flavor. And so we put all of those in and got the same flavors. And then it was all just a bit too much on the front. And we wanted to make it a bit sort of more complex and a little prettier on the end. So, and it was in the summer, and we kept seeing all the roses everywhere. And we're very lucky in that things happened to us by chance. And we were just looking at all the roses and said, what about roses? It'll just give it that floral note. And so we picked a whole load of roses, mainly from Bill's garden and from my garden, and sort of macerated them, and and that's what we came up with.
That is a unique flavor profile. I don't think I've tasted anything like that previously. I can see, I can imagine that being quite similar to gunpowder with the saltpeter from the salt, and then indeed the carbon. And the sulfur, that's really quite something. I find the nose very, very pretty, but it really is quite powerful on the palate. Like it's quite expressive on the palate.
Well, thank you. I mean, that's like, you want to have an initial sort of taste and effect of it, and that's the idea. And then, we think the more traditional rum flavors sort of come out. There's a hint of sort of caramel and vanilla halfway through, and then it finishes off slightly more aromatically with the roses and the hint of roses.
Now, you chose Jamaican aged rum for this particular spiced rum, but you source some Demerara rum from Guyana for your chaga rum. What was the thinking behind that?
Well, this rum, we wanted to be a slightly lighter rum, a sort of not quite an amber rum, but close to an amber rum. But we had to call it spiced rum because if you add anything to it, you've got to call it either a spiced or flavored rum. And we thought spiced was more accurate. But with our chaga rum, we wanted to be a richer, deeper rum, more of a sipping rum. And so then the Demerara rum was, for us, the obvious choice to go for. And we've also used that for a sort of cask strength rum we've produced as well.
Oh, right.
And, which comes in limited editions. I think we've laid a lot more down now because, slightly to our surprise, we lay stuff down and leave it. And then we produce it and then it all sells. We go, oh, we should have put more down.
Yeah, I've heard this from many a distiller. So this is being released in the coming days, actually, through the LCBO. I really enjoy drinking rum by itself, and usually in a larger glass like this. Actually, I can't take.
That looks very civilized, and I think you're setting a fine example.
A healthy pour as well.
And it doesn't look very much.
No, it's sizable from here. What other applications have you seen this particular gunpowder and rose rum used in, as in with cocktails?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's incredibly versatile in a cocktail because, it is a bit like an amber rum, but it's one with character.
Yeah.
So you can have it over ice. But really, I mean, everybody in Newfoundland drinks what they call a rum and coke. And because I'm obviously not, from around the bay, and I didn't really like rum and cokes, but I found that if you squeezed a lot of lime in and made it a fancy rum and coke, a Cuba Libre, it was great. So that's oddly, since we produced that, I've been drinking a lot more of that than even gin and tonics.
Okay, okay.
Um,
For someone
and
like myself who doesn't go down the Coke route, what would you suggest?
well, the other very easy one is a dark and stormy, just with the finest ginger beer you can put your hands on. And then if you like slightly stronger ones, you can do sort of what I'd call a riff on a Manhattan. And instead of using whiskey, you can use this as a rum base with your vermouth, and that's absolutely great and very drinkable. What other cocktails off the top of my head? I don't know. I use quite a lot. And also you can do a sort of dirty mojito. So instead of using a clear or a white rum, I think this works really well in it. And it's got a bit more character, but the mint comes through and some of the floral aspects come. So that's great too.
I'm thinking I have some of those better ginger beers downstairs. And I can see those really complementing the spice flavors in this. It really is quite delightful. Thank you very much for introducing me to this today. And perhaps the next time you're in Ontario, we can share a glass together.
Well, that'd be wonderful.
Excellent. Thank you very much for your time today. Really appreciate it. And all the best from Good Food Revolution.
Well, thank you very much indeed.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.